You will own nothing and be happy by 2030, the World Economic Forum. Do you remember when we were all talking about that with the World Economic Forum? I'm going to show you a video today, a really good insight on that. But I want you to put a different lens on. As we look through the lens of the ultra wealthy, and we look through the lens of a debt-based society, and we look through the lens of Ray Dalio's changing world order, and a currency that's been debased almost 96 to 97%, you may own nothing and be happy. I was having a conversation with somebody not too long ago. I think it was about 3 months ago. And he was arguing about this is what made me think of it. And then all the things happening right now with the 50-year mortgage. And there was I think it was a meme that went out, but it was kind of interesting. People saying that Trump wanted to do a 15-year auto loan. Okay. But just hear me out on this conversation. What I'm here to do is keep you calm, keep you stoic. And I do believe that you should be preparing for a bubble. I do really believe that. There has to be a winner and a loser at some point, guys. There is going to be a lot of money coming into this economy with tariffs. There is going to be a lot of income driven into this economy. But remember Reaganomics, guys. Study Reaganomics. Study the 1920s to 1929. There's nothing different, guys. It just goes in a big economic cycle. So I think what the 2029 presidency is going to be about, the campaigning president, is going to be all about inflation. Nobody can afford to live, right? That's going to be the campaign. Allowing people to survive, allowing people to have what they need. So the story goes like this: is somebody said to me, they're like, World Economic Forum, you're going to own nothing and be happy. I go, oh, okay. I said, well, let's talk about this. I said, do you own your home? Yep. I said, perfect. I said, so you have the title, you own your home? And they're like, well, no, I don't have the type. I have a home mortgage. I'm like, no, the bank owns your home. And I said, until you pay that off, you don't actually own that home. Okay. And I said, so you own your car? And they're like, yeah. And I said, oh, perfect. You have the title in your hand? So a deed for the house. And they're like, well, no, I'm making a payment. I said, so the bank owns the car. Cool. I said, do you own your cell phone? I said, I did a payment plan on my cell phone. I'm not going to give them $1,500 when I can throw $1,500 in XRP. I'll just put it on the plan and just keep flipping the damn phones when the new ones come out for our business. Right. And he said, well, no, I put the payment plan on there as well. And I said, okay, cool. So you don't own your car. And this guy is a very upset person all the time. You don't own your house. You don't own your phone. You don't own anything. And you're miserable. So what's going to be the difference? And then all of a sudden, Trump announces this 3 months later, this 50-year mortgage. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm going to give you a different perspective, and I'm going to share with you how I'm preparing for it. Now, I do believe I'm much more bullish on this presidency than when Biden was president, just being transparent. We owned 6 companies, and it was tough when Biden was president. 24% inflation, US dollar lost 24% of its purchasing power. We even gave pay raises during that time. 2022 was a tough year for our companies, right? It was like we just kept pushing through and we kept pushing through, right? We still built wealth, and it's been a lot easier since Trump has become president. Just the big, better bill, just the tax rules, right? Some of the things I'm doing tax-wise, I'm like, oh my God, like this is, but it won't always, it always cycles. Okay. That's very, the big but part about it is why I teach my capital DR strategy. So let's dive into this. So I want to give you just a different lens to look at. Okay. That's why I take the middle ground on things. I'm like, okay, what is the truth here? The truth is money is just debt. That's the truth. You're either paying it, the interest on it, or you're earning the interest on it. That's it. So if you understand that, take out XRP, take out Bitcoin, take out my investments, you got to beat inflation and you got to beat the hurdle rate, which is how much is inflation? How much does it cost you to borrow? Okay. And how much you earning on your investment. So if you're not an investor, you're literally enslaved. You own nothing and you're not happy, or maybe you are happy. Okay. So this is what the White House posted on November 12th, 2025. We are so back. Okay. But why doesn't it feel like it? Why doesn't it feel like it yet? Okay. Why doesn't it feel like it? Think about this. From 2020 to 2024, you lost 24% of your purchasing power. Look at who became wealthier. The wealth gap is going to become massive by 2030. Okay. So then Trump posted this. It just hit me because I just want to have this conversation with you guys. And I don't know if this video will hit well with you guys, but I just want to give you my mindset on how I'd make my investments. I don't make it based on emotion. Oh my gosh. I base it based on facts, figures, numbers, logic, economic cycles, and patterns. Ray Dalio's Changing World Order, the fourth turning. There's no emotion in this. I'm like, somebody's winning, somebody's losing. And my job is to protect my family financially, spiritually, and physically. Okay. So then he posted this, right? So it's after 3 months after that conversation I had. President Roosevelt, 30-year mortgage. President Trump, 50-year mortgage. Okay. People are going back and forth. Like, it's good in the fact that people will be able to own a home, because when someone has a home, there's stability, which I think is fantastic. I think the home is where the heart is, right? And I'm not even going to get into the strategies that I'm doing. It doesn't matter. It's like, I'm not going to get into this argument back and forth. Let's just talk about the raw understanding of what ownership means, right? A 50-year mortgage, the likelihood of you ever paying that house off is zero, because I move all the time. I admit it. I move all the time, right? I've moved 3 times in the last 3 years, or since 2020. First, I got my apartment, got my single family home, making another move right now, which is all based on taxes. And that's the only reason I'm moving, is because it's based on getting some huge tax benefits. Okay. But this right here, you're never going to own your home. Okay. So it's good, the fact that someone's going to have a roof over their head. But what if I told you, if you were to take the money, some of the moves I'm making, and invest in something that outpaces inflation, you could become wealthy? So then he starts talking about giving $2,000 dividend payments. You're going to own nothing and be happy. $2,000 dividend payments. I'm happy now. I got money coming in. 50-year mortgage. Who does that make wealthier? You or the banks? The banks. There's only interest, guys. They want you to extend. They'll let you extend your debt as far as humanly possible. All they care is if you make that payment. Because, guys, they're not using their money. They're not giving you their money. They're giving you my money that I deposit, and they're giving me your money that you deposit. It's like the Curly Moe thing. Here's $20 that I owe you. Oh, you owe me $20. And the money goes back and forth. I put $1 million in. They lend my $1 million out 9 times over. So they want you to have it. They're like, yes. The banks are like, yes. 50-year mortgage. Hell yeah. 15-month auto loan. And that was a meme, I think, that went out. It was proven to be false. But 15-month auto loan. Hell yeah. Right? Guys, you got to wake up. It's very simple macroeconomics. They want a 50-year mortgage. Like, they're packaging up as, oh, it's just going to be more. It is going to be more affordable, of course, but that's going to make houses go through the roof. They can make houses more expensive. So that's what you need to pay attention to, is inflation is going to go through the roof. We'll have cooling of inflation. Money's going to flow like water. We're going to have a huge economic bubble. And those holding the wrong stocks, the wrong companies that are overinflated because of printing of money and cheap money, cheap debt, and people that who are not in fixed supply assets or protecting their wealth through insurance are going to get wrecked. I'm telling you, by 2030, I really believe that's going to happen. That's what these stimulus checks are all about, guys. You're going to own nothing and be happy. So let's get into the narrative here, okay? So this was posted 2 years ago on Megyn Kelly's channel, and this woman wrote a book, You'll Own Nothing and Be Happy. But I want you to listen to the first part, because this is what we were all talking about before, and we all stopped having this conversation, and I'm going to take you deeper into this, okay? So listen to the first part of this conversation. I'm actually going to go read her book. Check this out.
Own nothing is tied to all of this, because this is a mentality not only that we see in democratic leaders in our own country, but at the World Economic Forum and sort of these globalist leaders who think this is our future. Explain it.
Yeah, so when I first heard you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, it's floating around Twitter, I just assumed that it was taken out of context, because so many things floating around social media are. And what I knew of the World Economic Forum at that point in time is it's an organization that is tied to the business and political elite. So I was like, there's no way that organization with that kind of membership is going to be predicting the end of private property by 2030. And in this particular case, Megyn, it took very little research to find it. In fact, you can go on their Twitter, I guess it's x.com now, feed and find this video. And that is the #1 prediction that they have. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And as somebody who's advocated for wealth creation opportunities for more than a quarter of a century now, I know that wealth comes from ownership.
Yes.
You have to own assets that have the ability to retain their value or to increase in value.
Yes, key. You have to own assets that retain their value and increase in value. Key. Okay. Key. That's why I love Bitcoin. That's why I love XRP.
In order to gain wealth. So the idea that the people who are running businesses and running politics would be saying we're going to remove that opportunity was incredibly frightening to me. And then I started to dissect the language. The language is you'll own nothing. It's not will own nothing. The people who are making this prediction don't feel like they're a part of this this wonderful outcome that's going to happen. So they're tipping their hand in just the way that they're putting it out there. And then the idea that you'll be happy, that you should buy into this carefree lifestyle where the government takes care of everything. Joe Biden is the man. He's going to take care of you, Megan.
Okay, so that was going against the Democrats, right? But if they're just giving you $2,000 stimmy checks, man, I mean, what's going on here, guys? Think about this, right? 50-year mortgage, you'll own nothing. You'll be happy. You will own nothing to be. That really hit me when I rewatched it. You will own nothing and be happy. Now, this is what's coming. AI is already taking white-collar jobs. Economist warns there's a much more in the tank. Across banking, the auto sector, retail executives are warning employees and investors that artificial intelligence is taking over jobs. Within tech companies, including Amazon, Palantir, Salesforce, and fintech firm Klarna, say they've cut or plan to shrink their workforce due to AI adoption. Recent research from Stanford suggests that changing dynamics are particularly hard on younger workers, especially in coding and customer support. Now, let me remind you, Larry Fink, the largest asset manager in the world, that told you when you're concerned about your country debasing your currency, Bitcoin might be a good option. The very guy that told you that Bitcoin's a fraud. He's a number 2 holder in Bitcoin. Trump now is the number 1 holder in billionaires. Barron Trump is worth about 150 to 180 million in crypto. They now own World Liberty Financial, which has the fastest growing stablecoin. He ran as the crypto capital of the world and the Bitcoin president. They want to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet and shrink the debt in half by 2025. How many people own Bitcoin? Do the math, guys. Do the math. 5% of the supply is left. That's it. They mine 450 a day, and treasury companies are buying 1,700 a day. Let me remind you what Larry Fink said. If you're concerned about your countries debasing their currency, it might be a good option. Larry Fink sits on the board of trustees for the World Economic Forum. He was appointed as a board of trustees, I think, in 2019. Okay. And then when Klaus Schwab disappeared, where did he go? Statement from Larry Fink and Andre Hoffman, interim co-chairs of the World Economic Forum. Larry Fink is the co-chair of the World Economic Forum. You're going to own nothing and be happy. It's just packaged up different, guys. Now, do I believe that there's going to be a great opportunity for Americans to take advantage of the biggest shift in generational wealth with deregulation, decentralization? 100%. That's where you come in. That's where you come in with your discipline, your consistency, and getting on the right side of this, guys. You got to think differently. This is not your grandparents' or your parents' economy. Your dollar has has collapsed 96 to 97% of purchasing power. And just logically, if they're going to print more money than in history in a low interest rate environment, they're going to debase your currency dramatically. So if they keep debasing your currency, they give you a 50-year mortgage where you can lend against your future self, right? Which is going to inflate like crazy. Okay, my parents bought their house in 1973 for $25,000. It's worth $400,000. And people are like, yay. No, that's not yay. That's a devaluation of your currency. If they sold the house, they can only move in the same neighborhood. They didn't grow. They lost that much in purchasing power. That is not a good thing. The real wages haven't gone up to keep up with that inflation. So if you're not keeping up with inflation, if you're not taking your income and creating cash flow and putting the cash flow into assets to beat inflation, you're literally going to get poor every single year. And yes, you will own nothing and be happy because you'll never be able to pay it off because your investments aren't even beating inflation. And you think houses are expensive now? There might be a bubble and it comes down, but it's going to be crazy expensive when money starts flowing like water in low interest rate environment. They'll just keep kicking the can down the road, guys. And until you understand how to get on the right side of that can, which is on the earning interest side, not the paying interest side, you're going to stay in the enslavement trap of the monetary system. That's how it's built. Taught to go to school, get a job, get a 401k, trade time for money, take your money that you get for paid for trading time, and you spend, and then you save, and you put it in a 60-40 split, you throw it into a 401k, and you hope that you'll retire with $1 million, and $1 million at 4% is $40,000 in retirement income. That's shit. That's crap. So you think you did a good job. You saved $1 million. And then think about where $1 million in probably 20 years and $1 million, you'll need about $1.7 million to live the same lifestyle. You're literally going backwards. You're in a hole. So it's time to figure this out. It's time to understand why gold and silver and Bitcoin and insurance, why the elites use insurance, why these assets have been tried and true. I know Bitcoin is a newer one, but it's a fixed supply. It's scarce like gold. So don't get caught up in the hype. Don't get caught up in the hopium. Don't get caught up in the AI bubble. Don't get caught up in this bullshit. If you make profits, get out, put it into things that are secure. So here's exactly what my ecosystem looks like. I created cash flowing businesses. I took my cash flow. I created cash flowing dividends. My dividends are high risk, high return. So I de-risk. Every time I get paid, I pull that money out, honey, and I stuff it into assets that I believe are going to be here forever. Okay. I focus on fixed supply assets. XRP, Bitcoin are my top two. Okay. Now I believe you need to figure out what you believe in. I believe in those two. I'm convicted that those two, and if I'm wrong, I have to, that's a big wrong, but I know I'm right. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is, but I'm not silly. I know people that are just in XRP. I think that's crazy. Just in Bitcoin. I think that's crazy. So I have diversification. So if all that collapsed, if my assets collapsed, my family's still good. I got cash generating dividends. I got businesses, right? I also have P, capital DR, which is insurance protection. I have wealth that if something collapses in the asset side, my family has protection and I can leverage against my own bank and get the flywheel going again. I'm diversified, richest man in Babylon, wisdom of King Solomon. Then I have leverage. I have my own family banks where I can borrow against myself and do what the banks are doing. Banks make money in interest income, fee income, and capital markets income. We just do that with our income. We take our income, we take the cash flow, we create assets, we create protection, we create leverage. Same thing the bank does, guys. You put $1 million in the bank, they're lending it out. They're leveraging it. They're putting it in the capital markets. They lend it to the next person walking in. They're not lending you for your mortgage their own money. They're lending you my money and vice versa, guys. So when you start to study the World Economic Forum, you start to study the Federal Reserve, which is not federal nor is a reserve, and you start to understand that the debt-based system, the monetary system, is just a trap. And you just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until you finally say, wait a minute, I'm going to stop spending then saving. I'm going to start saving then start spending. So the first thing is you create a budget. You go down to, you have 2 cars, you go down to 1. Or you go down to public transportation, you humble yourself for a couple of years. That's what I did. I moved back with my parents. I humbled the shit out of myself. And I took every bit of income and I turned it into cash flow and assets. And then I got that. I finally got blessed for my discipline and boom, I got some appreciation. I didn't buy Lambos. I didn't buy Ferraris. I bought more cash flow and I bought more assets and I bought more protection. And then it started to compound. Money compounds every 7 years at 10%. Now we're just destroying that compounding cycle and it just grows and it multiplies. So every time I get paid, I make sure that my family makes more money. Every day I get paid or every single day, I have dollar cost average into Bitcoin and XRP. Every single Monday, I'm buying more dividends. Every single Monday, my dividends pay. I take the dividends and I buy more XRP and Bitcoin because I believe they're going to be here and they're safe and I de-risk. I don't play games with my family's money. So I hope this helps. I just want to open up your lens and have you think a little bit differently and not get you too caught up in price predictions, hopium, and getting disillusioned by this stuff. Like, we're so back. Yeah. Okay. Let's see it. Let's go. Let's go. Let these markets fly. But remember, what goes up will come down. Remember, we're going into a massive stock bubble. Warren Buffett didn't pull into cash for no reason, guys. Highest cash position ever. He's a very smart man. He's just logical. It's not, he doesn't even, I love him and Charlie Munger. One time Charlie Munger, and I'm paraphrased big time, but the concept of it, he's like, this fight going to financial schools and all this bullshit. They don't chase charts. He's like, it's logic, man. We're logical dudes. Like, oh, this is a good company that I think is going to be here. And I like the CEO. I like the board of directors. And we believe it's very valuable. It's a fair price right now. Let's get in. And they hold long term because they believe it's going to be here. And sometimes they're winning, sometimes they're losing, but overall they always win because they pick good companies. They're not chasing price predictions, hopium, red candles, green candles. They're not day trading. They're not, chasing the markets. They're not bullish 1 second, bearish. They're doing big economic moves. And you can do that at a small level with $10 and then build up to 10 million bucks. That's how winning is done. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. If you need any support, you can join my academy down below in the description of this video or in my social media platform. Reminder, we do not invest people's crypto. That's not me reaching out to you on Messenger. I'm not proactive. I'm not proactively reaching out to you. We don't invest people's crypto. We don't have a trading platform. We work really hard to delete scammers. Just make sure you never send anybody. I know you think you're talking to me. It's not me. No influencers reaching out to you asking about your crypto. It's the biggest scam happening right now in history. There are these call centers. They're creating fake profiles. Be very careful. Double, triple check, and just never send your crypto to anybody. Never send your money to anybody trying to help you invest in crypto. We don't invest people's crypto. We're educators. Okay. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. Warriors, let's get your shit together. Love you.